Hello and welcome to ImHelgaBlue. Today I'm going to show you how to build this very simple yet exceptionally good automatic chicken and egg breeder. This structure will form the framework for the next two videos, turning it into a fully automatic slaughterhouse or a fun farm where no chickens are harmed. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified when these ones appear. Okay, let's get started. Using the 2x2 wood floor, we'll need 3 pieces wide and 2 pieces deep to start with. I use the cage wall as foundation for the 12 metre high frame, but if you're building it vanilla and don't have enough iron, then just use iron beams on the outer edges to give the top section its stability. During the video, I'll point out things that are important and things that are okay to change along the way, so whether you're using mods, dev commands or vanilla, this build should be easy to follow along with. Whichever way you're building, in the end you'll need stairs to reach the top to feed the chickens, so place a third floor piece down here, which will give us the perfect placement for the ladder going up. I use the ladder option for 2 reasons. One, because it takes less space to reach the right height, and secondly, enemies cannot climb them to kill your chickens. 3 ladders high reaches the edge of the frame. Now place a floor piece and then another ladder against the back of the frame, and then another floor piece. Continue with the framework until you get 6 pieces on each side, making it 12 metres high, and 4 pieces in the centre. This framework is for a double breeder, 2 chickens on each side. Same amount of work for double the egg production. With the frame set up done, add 1 metre wall pieces firstly on the bottom. This isn't strictly necessary right now, however a 1 metre section is required further up the top, so it makes it easier to use the 1 metre now. Then place 4 2 metre wall pieces on each side and 3 in the centre. Here is where the second 1 metre wall piece is required to give the correct snapping points for the breeding boxes. Then use a 2 metre pole on the edge of each. Next, add a set of stairs and a floor which forms the area for you to walk on. This is where we get to the good part, building the chicken breeding boxes. Each of these steps is quite important, so take your time and make sure you get them right for it to work properly. Starting with the inverted 45-degree wood wall, snap them into the 2 metre pole tops. Then place a 1 metre core wood beam across the bottom of the inverted pieces. This is temporary and not strictly needed, but it gives a bit more security when the chickens first drop onto the roof piece. 45-degree roof pieces will form the floor for the chickens to live on. It doesn't matter if you choose to use the thatch option or the tar option, both will work perfectly well. Next we need a floor for the eggs to hatch on, so place a 2x2 floor piece on top of each box. Then close the front with a 1 metre wall. Make sure the crossbeam of the wall is facing you so it doesn't interfere with the chickens on the inside being able to access their food. The hatching box above can now be closed with 1 metre walls on the outsides and 2 metre wall at the back. Complete the rest of the floor using extras if you're building vanilla that can be removed later when not needed anymore. Eggs take a few game days to hatch, so I want to get them in place as soon as possible and use my time wisely. To get the eggs into the right spot, place 2 wall pieces into a V shape, which will give you a backboard to throw the eggs against. Luckily they don't break. Most importantly, you don't want the eggs to land too close to the sides or back wall, as the chicks could hatch on the outside of the box. Throw the eggs one at a time against the V walls. Once the eggs are in a position that you're happy with, remove the backboards and double check that you have enough room around the eggs from the walls. Close the front of the hatch and cover the boxes. I prefer to use a cage floor to do this, as it gives me visibility to check on the chicks, but you could use a standard floor if you prefer. It's important to close the boxes to protect the chickens from flying enemies. In order for eggs to hatch, they require 2 things. Firstly, a roof. It doesn't matter which one you use, as they will all work. Secondly, you need a heat source. Adding a crossbeam at the top, then a floor piece, I place a brazier. This is my preferred method, but you can do it any way that works to warm the eggs enough for them to hatch. Once it's in place, open the boxes to check the eggs are receiving the warmth from the fire. Hover over them, and as long as it says warm, you know the eggs are now good to hatch. Close the breeding cages again, and let's get on with the rest of the build. We need a little more depth in the floor here, which will give us the room needed to feed the chickens. So go ahead and add some more floor pieces in. The next few steps are really important. Using a wood door, place it against the top section of the hatching box. Then use a 1 metre pole at the bottom of the door on the outermost snapping point on each side. Then a 1 metre pole directly underneath them. This is important as it gives the correct position for the feeder tray. For the feeder tray, we use a 45-degree roof ridge piece. Again, it doesn't matter if you use the thatch or the tar version, but make sure it snaps into the 1 metre poles and not the wall, so it leaves a perfect size gap for the food to sit in. You can now remove the door and the 1 metre poles. It's not important, but for aesthetic reasons, I place a 2 metre pole on the edges of the boxes just to finish them off nicely. Close the feeding section with a 1x1 wall piece on each side. This is important because it's going to give us a snapping point for the wood shutters we will use next. At the edge closest to the front, place the wood shutters facing out on both sides. Once you close these shutters, it forms a trough for the food to sit perfectly in the centre. And there you go, it looks great. While I wait for the chickens to hatch, I'll do some more cosmetic work to the frame and stairs. Totally up to you what you choose to add or not. It won't affect the chickens or the eggs in any way. From experience, I know it's easy to fall off single ladders, so I tend to make them a double size when I can. Add beams along all the edges to make them neat and tidy. I realise that some of you might be thinking, what if it rains? The fire will go out. So if that's an issue for you, this method is a bit ugly and crude, but it works. Bring the fire source down and add a roof over it temporarily. Once the eggs have hatched into chicks, you can remove the fire source and the roof pieces off the breeding boxes. Then we just have to wait for the chicks to mature into hens. And here we go. We're ready for the final stage. These steps are super important as a mistake could mean you have to start all over again. Take off the cover. It's okay, the hens can't escape. Now very carefully, using the hammer, remove the floor of the hatch. Double check before clicking anything to make sure you remove the right part. This causes the hens to fall down onto the 45-degree roof where they'll begin their breeding life. Do the same on the other side. Then I'm going to show you a trick to get both hens into the perfect position for breeding, which is to have them both directly in the centre. I achieved this by using the shutters again. this time on the front lower edge of the box, facing outwards on both sides. Now when I close the shutters, you can see it pushes the hens into the space in the centre, where they will live together and breed brilliantly. Doing the same thing on the other side too. Perfect. Okay, so how do you feed them? Step onto the roof ridge, keep going up and down until you get yourself smack in the centre of the wall in front. Then simply throw the food, dandelions or seeds, at the wall and it will slide down the roof into the centre. That's the perfect spot for the hens to eat from. And here we go, eating already. Do the same on the other side. Get yourself into the centre, throw the food at the wall, and it will roll down. Hens are all eating. Happy days. A few minutes later, love is in the air and egg production has begun. Now I can finish off the breeding boxes with a 1 metre wall placed inside the centre of the box. Get it as close to the chickens as you can. This will ensure that the hens stay tight in the front centre section and do not move out of this perfect position. Finally, place a permanent cover over them. It's totally up to you what you choose, but I like the cage floor because it gives me the visibility. It's very important though that they're covered to protect them from attacking enemies like bat raids. Now we know everything's in the correct place and working properly. The final step is to remove the core wood logs from underneath, which will allow the eggs to roll out onto the ground. Just be very careful that you only remove the core wood piece and not something else accidentally. Okay, let's see how good it works. Egg drop from hatch 1. And there goes an egg from hatch 2. Brilliant! Then after 10 to 15 minutes, we have a lovely supply of fresh farm eggs. As mentioned in the beginning, the next video will be how to go from this breeder and expand on it so that one side drops eggs and the other side becomes an automatic hen slaughterhouse. And episode 3 will be a kinder version where the chickens and hens roam around happily in a little farmhouse. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video informative and simple to follow. If so, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. See you on the next one.